The home of the common Joe and the common Sally in the know, even more so than all those media talking heads. Hello, I'm George Kliavkoff, and I got my dunce hat on today because I think I'm going to be the modern day Turbo Man. I'm going to save the freaking day for the Pac-12, even though I have yet to sign a TV deal. I'm in vast negotiations with PBS and BBC of London, England. And while we're expanding, I'm going to think outside the box, and I'm going to add Oxford University of England. And even going further west, more like Far East, I'm going to go out and add the Nagasaki Egg Rolls and the Tokyo Tech Marauders of the Japanese American Football League. And maybe even go a little more south with the Bangkok Ballbusters of Thailand. Wrong answer. And they're free falling. That's what they're doing. The Pac-12 is free falling away behind the Big 12. You know, the conference that they talk so much smack to. Even though the Big Ten is the one that left them like a bad date at a bad club. But before we get to all that, I'd like to say this is the OCF, that's the Outlaw of College Football, also known as JPC on Facebook. That stands for Jesse Paul Clark, spelled J-S-S-E without the I. Also on Twitter at OCF Productions. Now, let's get to it. The old Pac-12, man, they continue to launder about and just waddle around on the ground out there in the West and continue to not have a TV deal in place. You know, there was talk about, you know, they may get some kind of little deal from ESPN on maybe ESPN 3 or something like that. And then there was Amazon, then there was Apple, and then there's Ion TV. And then the lead up, as I said, for long we'll have PBS and maybe even the BBC network out of London, England. And what gets me about the Pac-12, man, is they've played this elitist card for so very long. And they're just oblivious and delusional as to where their place is in college sports now. Especially in football, the big money maker. With basketball being the second biggest money maker. But football, far and beyond that, is the biggest money maker. And if they're going to be serious about sports going forward, then they're going to have to do some things that they probably didn't want to do. And the biggest problem with the Pac-12 has always been their faith in the Big Ten. I still go back to that whole Big Ten, ACC, Pac-12 loose-knit alliance that they formed right after the SEC expanded with Texas and Oklahoma to say as we were not going to raid each other and we're all sticking together. Come to find out, a year or two later, Kevin Warren was just pacifying the Pac-12 until he could get his ducks in a row and take their shit. That's basically what he done. He come in there and took their two best properties, maybe outside of Oregon and Washington, USC and UCLA. He took the entire LA market from them after making that loose-knit alliance and that promise, man. I mean, how does he think that makes him look? I don't think he really cares. But the Pac-12 is the one that's stupid about all this because they continue to not even say anything about what the Big Ten did. Yet, here they are attacking the Big 12 constantly. Maybe it's because it's like they're scared of the big bully. And so instead of standing up to the big bully, which is the Big Ten, they decide to try to pick on somebody they think is more their size. But they're not. They're not the Big 12 size anymore. They're even behind the Big 12 now. The Big 12 went out and got proactive, went out and added some teams and didn't try to play that elitist card and all that bullshit about AAU and academics and all that crap. Let's be honest here, man. And this is going to piss some people off. But let's be honest. Athletics really doesn't have anything to do with academics anymore. Athletics is a completely different branch of these universities, just like a company. You know, you have branches of the company where, you know, in a factory somewhere, you got people that's in, like Pfeiffer Wire here in Tuscaloosa, you got people that's in sheeting, and then you got people that's in logistics. They're in two different departments, but they benefit the company. And that's what athletics does for the university. They benefit the universities. They bring them prestige. They bring them notoriety. People, they get to put their name out there. And so people, I've always said, you know, the athletes need to adhere to a certain academic standard. And I used to think that too, but I'm starting to think that maybe that shouldn't be the case. To me, these players have basically become employees of the university because now they're getting paid. So why should they even have to attend classes, to be honest with you, if they're employees? You don't see any of their employees attending classes. And on the flip side of it, the students are there on academic scholarships. Do you see the students on academic scholarships out there? Do you see them having to compete in sports? Are they forcing the math majors and the engineers to get out there and be the scout team for the University of Alabama? No. So why should the athletes have to partake in that side of the company, that being the university? And I know people ain't gonna like you calling universities and colleges companies, but that's what they are, man. They make money hand over fist, year in and year out, just like any other millionaire type company. So to me, players shouldn't even have to go to class. I know that sounds messed up, and people are like, well, you're just saying that because you're some dumb southern redneck or something. No, man. It's got to do with common sense, man. You're not going to make the person in your company come over there and do something on that side of the company and that branch that they're not familiar with, or something that they're obviously not going to be as good at. It's just called common sense. It ain't got nothing to do with academia and how much and how good you know calculus or anything like that. It's got to do with the fact that you are better at one thing, or you're trained better in one thing. So unless your math majors and English majors are going to start being on the scout team for the universities, then these players should not have to really take any academic courses unless it's voluntarily, in my opinion. Now, what the Pac-12 needs to do in order to save itself, in my opinion, and this may not work for them because it may be too late, but they need to get with the Big 12, you know, the one they've sneered at all these years, and just merge and take over the entire western side of the United States for the most part, have most of the markets out there and take over that western side of the United States. But they're probably not going to do that because they're going to continue to listen to the jackasses at Stanford in California and even Oregon and Washington. Those four corner schools, they don't know how much over the barrel they actually have the Pac-12. They have the power here. These elitist ass universities that go out saying, well, our endowments are so big, we don't really need sports. Yeah, okay. Just because your endowments are bigger than your sports budget doesn't mean you don't need it. That'd be like someone saying, hey, you know, I got a business in airplane parts. I also got this business over here where I sell car parts, but because the airplane parts bring in more money, screw it. Let's just not worry about the car part industry, and let's just scrap that and lose about $1 million or $2 million. How about that? I'm just tired of the elitism, man. In Oregon and Washington, you better get your shit in gear, man, because if you're waiting around the Big Ten, and you may get the Big Ten invite, but I'm not so sure that USC, not so much UCLA, but the USC I do not think wants any Western schools over there. They'd rather just deal with the logistics of travel and the headaches of that than to have to compete with Oregon and Washington in the same conference, because Oregon's been handing them their ass on the recruiting trail in their own state. Oregon and Washington need to join the Big 12 and quit all this elitist bullshit. Stanford, California, you know, getting in y'all's ear and stuff, man. Y'all need to quit listening to them jackasses. Because I have a feeling those two universities, they're going to end up dropping down probably to, hell, they may drop down to the FCS or join the Ivy League or some shit. But they're not even good enough for the Ivy League. They're like Ivy League wannabe schools that want to have their cake and eat it too. They want to compete at the highest level of sports, but at the same time, they want to sneer their noses at other universities that they think they're just too grand to soil their hands with these universities. Like BYU, for example. Number of years they could have added BYU, but because of the stupid ass religious bias of the West Coast, they wouldn't let BYU join because they were a Mormon university. You know, probably the second biggest religion in the world with enormous amount of donors, probably got that huge endowment that y'all get a tent in your pants over. So to me, the only way the Pac-12 is going to save themselves, it is not going out and adding San Diego State and SMU like they've been talking about doing, is they're going to have to merge with the Big 12. Stanford, California, they can just go into a world of their own and have all their little endowments and their little AAU parties that they want. And that's all I got to say about that. You guys and gals tell me what you think about all this. Like, share, comment, and subscribe to this channel. Especially sharing. Sharing's really good because it gets more of us in here for this party that we've been having. Also, there's a heart down here. If you don't mind, hit that. Throw me a few dollars in the coffers. And as always, KMCA to all the other teams. Class is now officially dismissed.